Oh geez. We didn't learn our lesson, did we, EarthGov? Aegis 7 didn't quite fill you in on the situation? No, this time the Unitologists wouldn't ruin things. This time it would be for the good of mankind. The markers were going to be a new energy source, right? Let's go back a bit, to the end of Dead Space 1. We knew that Isaac Clarke was in for a bad time at the end of the game, even if he made it back home. He'd been in close contact with a red marker. He was a witness to the necromorph outbreak. He knew what Unitology had caused there. He knew what had really happened on the Ishimura. Would Isaac be imprisoned when he got back to mankind? Hunted? Killed? Would he go on the run? God, it was so much worse than I would have expected for Isaac. When the red marker on Aegis 7 was destroyed, that wasn't the end of its influence on Isaac. To most people, when in close proximity to a marker, they experience paranoia, insomnia, mood swings, and violence. This inevitably results in death, either from murder or suicide. The markers use dead flesh, reanimating it into the violent alien beings called necromorphs. This is to achieve an event called convergence, something mentioned quite often by Unitologists in Dead Space 1 and by Isaac's hallucinations in Dead Space 2, though I don't yet have enough information to fill in what this event is. Hopefully in Dead Space 3, we'll go on that wild ride. Anyways, as I said, most people who come into close proximity with a marker meet awful and violent ends. But for a few who have the intellect suited for it, the markers do something quite interesting. They imprint schematics into their brains, blueprints, on how to make more markers. These people are compelled to act on this information to recreate the markers. EarthGov gets custody of Isaac after the events of Dead Space 1, and for 3 years, he and at least 4 other individuals who have been exposed to markers are used by EarthGov to do just this: make another marker, and this one is a big boy. It's a sprawling, monolithic thing. Isaac has almost no memory of these years he was held in captivity. In fact, when we meet him, he's coming out of sedation, in a straitjacket. And the longer he's suffered from the effects of the now destroyed red marker, the stronger it has become. As though the marker planted a seed, and over time it grew higher and stronger. Though Isaac is, for the most part, able to contain his delusions and keep to his missions. His fellow victim and science experiment, Nolan Strauss, was not so fortunate. Isaac was patient 4, Strauss was patient 5. We don't know the stories or fates of patients 1 through 3, though it's safe to assume their retirement wasn't a happy one. Unsurprisingly, it's Unitology that first rears its ugly head at the start of Dead Space 2, contacting Isaac during a psych ward break. He's now on a Metropolis space station located on a moon of Saturn called Titan. What was being done to Isaac and his fellow patients was secretive, but when we meet Isaac, necromorphs are flooding the area. A strange man wakes and frees him from confinement, and the only guidance he has comes from a beautiful and well-spoken woman named Dana, cough cough, Unitologist. He's promised treatment for his dementia and help in escaping from pursuing EarthGov forces. Isaac doesn't know that he's being led on by Unitologists, so with no other option, he takes the direction of this woman. Of course, only to be captured and informed that the cure was a fib. He's in custody for about 45 seconds, until EarthGov finds them and opens fire on everything in the room. Isaac is now facing a new opposition with EarthGov. While Unitologists wanted Isaac and the markers to create transcendence in death and a rebirth of mankind, EarthGov wanted the markers to use them as an energy source. Mankind's reliance on planet cracking for resources is a doomed endeavor, and eventually it will fall apart without a new energy source. Since the events on Aegis 7, corporations like the CEC have become government-owned enterprises. Businesses invested in the future of planet cracking failed. Unemployment grew, the industry collapsed. Natural resources on Earth have all but been decimated by humans, and with the failings of the planet cracking industry, the future of mankind was bleak. Using the markers as an energy source may have seemed like their only option. It may have been their only option. EarthGov knew exactly what happened on Aegis 7, though, and for 3 years they built the monolithic 12B marker on the Titan station. We know that necromorph infection and spread happens very quickly. This was either sabotage, cough cough unitologists, or this marker alone caused the event. Logs mentioning populace mental health decline are found on the station, so which was it? If you know the answer to this chicken and the egg question, let me know in the comments. Infection from sabotage? Or was the marker responsible? Or is there another option? An EarthGov official named Hans Tiedemann now leads the effort to stop Isaac from escaping the Titan station. As the director of operations on the station, when the outbreak began, he broke containment protocol and ordered the evacuation of as many personnel and citizens as possible, drawing the ire of EarthGov higher-ups. In his way, Tiedemann is trying to work to serve the greater good of mankind, at the expense of people like Isaac that they harvest marker information from, and at the great peril to the continuation of anything near a marker. In trying to stop Isaac's escape, he's ensuring that anyone tied to the events of Aegis 7 and now the Titan station are silenced. Isaac's escape could jeopardize their research. Isaac's insistence on reaching and destroying the marker could end everything they'd been working towards. The marker itself interacts with Isaac throughout his venture, taking on the familiar form of his dead girlfriend, Nicole, who died aboard the Ishimura. Nicole was on that ship because Isaac encouraged her to take the position. He carried that guilt with him and refused to acknowledge his trauma from the events there. The marker used this and the visage of Nicole to manipulate and push him forward, closer to the marker. Strauss, or patient number 5, is riddled with psychosis, but tells Isaac over and over again that he knows they can destroy the marker, that there are steps to follow, but if they can get to where the marker is at, they can follow the steps to destroy it. Isaac comes across a woman named Ellie, who initially wants nothing to do with him and leaves him behind. Ellie then comes across Strauss, who claims to know Isaac, and Ellie kinda takes pity on the insane man, telling Isaac she'll escort him to a meeting place and the three become a dysfunctional team of sorts. Strauss becomes more unstable the closer they come to the marker. Isaac also suffers worse symptoms of dementia as they go. Curiously, Ellie does not seem to suffer these effects. Strauss chants the steps to destroying the marker. Step 1, step into the darkness. Step 2, the screws go tight. Step 3, stick a needle in your eye. Strauss once attacks and bites Ellie. He attacks her again not long after, stabbing her in the eye with a tool and taking it out. Step 3, I suppose. Though he doesn't kill her, instead they fight and he flees. Strauss tracks down Isaac and attacks him, trying to repeat his eye removal trick, though this ends in Strauss's death, leaving Isaac and Ellie to continue on. But as soon as the opportunity arises to see Ellie safely off the Titan station, Isaac takes it. As soon as she is on an escape ship, refusing to allow her to continue on to the marker, he launches her safely away. Isaac speaks with the marker in the form of Nicole and acknowledges that he doesn't want to let her go, that he can't move on. The image of Nicole tells him that she'll help him if he'll just make them whole, code for cooperate. But Isaac refuses to do so. The image of Nicole reappears a number of times as he gets closer to the marker, helping him along, wanting him to reach the marker. Isaac is confused by this, thinking that maybe this image of Nicole does in fact want to help him destroy the marker. She tells him that the people who built the marker from the code stored inside their brains were afraid of her and Isaac working together. Isaac unlocks the final codes needed to complete the marker in a sequence that I will now let you enjoy.
I'm sorry. What the fuck are we doing? Uh-oh. Oh. Isaac?
Still not sure of what he's supposed to do when he reaches it, Isaac continues to work with the image of Nicole, and after killing Tiedemann at the foot of the 12B marker, understands that he is the final part needed to activate a convergence event. The image of Nicole attacks him, pulling him into his now unlocked mind, intent on absorbing him into the marker. He's a creator of this marker, and he's the last one needed to be consumed by it. Doing this, consuming the makers of the marker, is required for completion. But Isaac fights back against this. He rebels against the image of Nicole and destroys the marker's influence buried in his mind. Doing this causes this massive marker to begin to crumble. Isaac sits down, amidst the chaos, and waits for the end. I mean, until Ellie shows back up like a total badass. Isaac pulls himself together and races for Ellie's ship like a 26th century Iron Man. When we depart this story, we do it much the same as Dead Space 1. Where will Isaac go now? He has Ellie with him. Her fate is tied to his. EarthGov and Unitology will surely hunt them down. How could they ever go home? A post-credit dialogue tells us that this is just Site 12. Other marker sites will have to pick up the slack of 12B's destruction. The future of our now duo, the fate of all mankind, seems bleak. Isaac's face reflects the same despair we saw at the conclusion of Dead Space 1, though, when he looks over, rather than being attacked with the haunting hallucinations of Nicole, all he sees is Ellie.